Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Liaisons, which is episode 2 of season 7 of Star Trek The Next Generation. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation, one episode at a time. In this video, I cover the 7th season episode Liaisons. So, Liaisons is the episode in which a group of ambassadors come on board the Enterprise. One is sent with Troy, and all he wants to do is eat desserts, and the other is sent with Riker. However, he refuses Riker and chooses Worf, and he completely antagonizes Worf the entire time. Meanwhile, Picard goes off on a shuttlecraft with another of these aliens to visit his home world, but they crash on a planet on the way, in which the pilot is seemingly killed, but he meets another woman there who's been trapped on the planet for 7 years, but she starts to become very obsessive and weird with him, insisting that she loves him when they just met, and then she threatens to kill herself. But then Picard, when he sees that the pilot is in fact still alive, realizes that something's wrong, so calls her out on her BS, and it turns out that the woman was actually the pilot in disguise. He was actually an ambassador sent to study the concept of love. Picard tells him that what he did would be considered a crime, and they kind of just laugh it off or whatever and return to the ship. And yeah, Worf kicks that guy's ass, and he's very happy about it, and Troy just continues to eat chocolate with that one dude. Anywho, so before I jump into this episode, I wanted to take a time to talk about season 7 of Next Generation, because this is the first episode I'm really jumping into. I mean, they did Descent Part 2, but that was, part of the Descent thing. This is the first time I'm jumping into season 7. And so, something I've been making clear, hopefully, throughout most of my videos, is that I like season 7 a lot more than a lot of other people do. I commonly hear season 7 referred to as a bad season, a drop in quality. The writers themselves said that they felt tired and exhausted during the writing of this season, and that they kind of ran out of ideas. But I actually really like season 7. I've been on the record saying I like it better than season 5. And I might even... No, I think I like it better than season 4. I think I said sometimes it was better than season 4, but the more I think about it, I think season 4 is slightly better. But they're kind of on par. Like, it's hard for me to tell which one is better. That's how much I like this season. And I do admit a lot of that has to do with nostalgia. I talked about before that the time I was most obsessed with Star Trek was during the airing of season 6 and season 7 of TNG, and that's when I was most obsessed with it and watching the episodes over and over again. So I do have a lot of nostalgia for this season, but I do look back in a lot of the specific episodes, and I do think that they're underrated and that people do not give the season enough credit that it deserves. Now, as far as the writers being tired, that's because they were doing season 2 of Deep Space Nine. They were doing pre-production for Voyager, and they were doing pre-production for Generations. Ronald D. Moore and Brendan Braga were working on Generations at the same time they were working on season 7, and there were only 3 other writers on staff. One of them is Jerry Taylor, who was the showrunner, but she was going to be the main showrunner for Voyager and was helping to create Voyager, so she was busy doing that while she was trying to do the showrunning. And so the only 2 writers really on staff were Noreen Shankar and Renee Echevarria, and both of them said they were completely overwhelmed. In fact, I talked about the open door submissions policy that they had throughout the show that Michael Piller first instated in season 3. Well, apparently they stopped doing it this season. Now, you might think, oh, well, they could have used the help. But the thing, it was probably more work for them to actually do the submissions because they needed to have staff writers take time out of their day to review like a stack full of scripts to see if there are any good ideas, and they said most of the time there weren't any. So I just think that they just didn't have the time to deal with it. So that actually kind of makes sense to me that they stopped doing the open submissions. So I think part of the deal with season 7 and why the writers were exhausted was because that the Star Trek was doing too much. It was I've had time in my life like this where I worked myself too hard and got myself involved with too many projects at the same time, and I was like barely getting any sleep, and it was like a rough time in my life. And I feel like that's what they did in this time. And surely that will reflect on the season, but I think even given that, I still kind of, in some ways, I prefer this season to season 4. I definitely think it's better than season 5. And so I disagree with those saying that it's the worst season behind season 1 and 2, or excluding seasons 1 and 2, which are obviously the worst. Anyone who says they're not the worst is just totally wrong. I think I heard one wrong person say that they thought season 2 was better than season 7. That's hilarious. But anyway, no, so I actually end up liking season 7 a lot more than most people do. Now, I did a season-long review for season 7 where I went through every episode very quickly of season 7, and I also talked about this in that review, how I actually really like season 7 and I think it's underrated. And I got this comment that I wanted to read because I thought it was a really interesting comment. So the comment on that video is saying, "It's funny, you started off, 'This season is great,' then went through the episode like the Joker looking through Vicky's Veil art portfolio. Crap, crap, crap. Now this is good work. Making it seem, in fact, just like season 2, some great, some bad, then finished off by giving it a 9 out of 10 laughy face emoji." Now, I'll also read my response, which that I responded to this comment. And I said, haha, fair enough. However, to be fair, season 7 had a bad start, so I might have started out by going crap, 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 but then the season gets better. And just to be sure, I just went through all the episodes of season 7 to see how many I didn't like and how many that I did. I liked 14 episodes, disliked 7 episodes, and thought 4 were okay. So that's twice as many episodes as I liked than I didn't, and I'm going through season 2 again right now, and I'm certain that the ratio is going to be higher for me for episodes I dislike rather than like. And so I stand by my 9 rating, and I don't call it contradictory because I think of those 14 good episodes, a lot I think are underrated and plenty I think are great. Whereas the 7 that I don't like, only one of them I think totally sucks. And I guess you're gonna keep yourselves up at night trying to figure out which one that is, I'm sure. But yes. In fact, when I finished season 2, I did in fact see that there were 11 episodes I gave negative ratings to and 11 episodes I gave positive ratings to. So easily a much worse ratio than what I gave season 7. So clearly, I like season 7 far better than season 2. Even my review reflects this. I don't know exactly, because I'll do my ranking all the episodes of season 7 when I get to the end of it. And I don't know exactly what the ratio will be, because in this comment I mentioned, I put 4 is okay. So those okay could go either way. They could be okay good or okay bad. So, but as is, like this 14 guaranteed positive rating, so it's gonna be, it might even be higher, may end up being 15 or 16, which is actually really good compared to some of these other ratios. Like, it might even be a better ratio than season 6, although I will say I think season 6 is a better season, but that's just because it had all those bangers, all those great episodes in a row. But yeah, it might actually have a better ratio, but we'll see. So I bring that up in this episode review specifically because, as I mentioned in my comment, I do start off with season 7 by going crap, and that's what I'm about to do. Unfortunately, the first batch of episodes of season 7 are not good. It does the classic thing of having a bunch of bad episodes at the start of the season. Now, if you take out the last 2 episodes of the season, which are some of the best of the entire show, before those great 2 episodes, though, there was a bunch of crap as well. So, kind of is crap at the beginning and towards the end, but not the very end. That was amazing, but right before those last 2 episodes, there was a batch of really terrible ones. So it's kind of another season where it's like not so good at the beginning, not so good at the end, but in the middle is the good stuff. And the last very 2 episodes are the best. But really, yeah, so it's kind of like season 6 in that way. It's definitely like season 6 in the term of, and to be fair, I think that the start of season 7 is not as bad as the start of season 6. I think season 7 has more mediocrity, whereas season 6 just had outright terrible episodes like Man of the People and Rascals. So the start of season 6 is worse than the start of season 7. So yeah, I do start out season 7 by going crap, but I did that even to a larger degree in season 6, and I love season 6. It's my second favorite season of the whole show. So you shouldn't judge me by that. But anywho, in this episode, I wouldn't say, finally getting into this episode proper, I wouldn't say that it's crap. It's not good. I'm not even sure what rating I'm going to give it yet. But it's not exactly crap. It's not the worst thing in the world. The plot on the Enterprise with the other ambassadors reminds me a lot of this Voyager episode called Someone to Watch Over Me. Is the one when Doctor was teaching 7 and 9 to date. Now, that's not the plot it reminds me of. There was a subplot in that episode about an ambassador visiting the ship, and Neelix was supposed to look after him, and all he wanted to do was get drunk and be like indulge in all these pleasures, and Neelix tried to keep him under control because he was supposed to be of like this proper conservative religious sect or whatever. And you see why it reminds me of it. It's in fact like, I always get those 2 episodes mixed up in my head, at least those 2 subplots. Like, the main plots are obviously very different, like Picard being trapped on the planet with an insane woman, and, Doctor teaching 7 and 9 how to date are nothing alike, but the 2 subplots are like, I get those mixed up in my head. I was like, is this the one where the guy was acting drunk? Oh no, that was Neelix. That must have been Voyager. So it must be the one when the guy just likes to eat chocolate. That's Troy. TNG. Okay. I get those mixed up. They're so damn similar, but I suppose that's more of a problem with Voyager for copying this episode and not doing anything more original. And not that this was a good episode to copy in the first place. So I guess since I'm on the topic of the ambassadors visiting the Enterprise, I'll start with them. I don't have much to say about this. I mean, this is kind of probably my favorite part of the episode because it was funny. I mean, it's not amazing. It's not enough to hang an episode on. To be clear, it's not enough to make it good. It is like a throwaway B plot, which they spent maybe a little bit too much time on. But there were some really funny moments in it, such as when Worf, like the whole thing with Worf is pretty hilarious. When he was at 10 Forward, like serving the meat for that dude, and he was like really pissed off, and Data comes up and says, how's things going? And Worf was like, he's rude and inconsiderate and incoherent, and he's just so, a bastard to be around. And Data's just like, well, you share those traits in abundance. Why don't you find some commonality? And Worf just like gets out the knife. Looks really pissed off at Data. Maybe not like very consistent with their characters to say that, but it was funny. So I will give them a pass on that. Yeah, but God, there was a couple other really funny moments, like Worf saying, "I will rip out his esophagus," getting really upset over it, and of course when Worf actually does kick that guy's ass, and he's like, yes, very good, this is what a wonderful experience, and they're all just looking at him like, huh? And then the dude keeps like eating the chocolates, and Troy is like, oh yeah, she starts eating them too. Also, we meet Eric in this episode, the young boy who we'll see 2 more times in season 7, I believe, in the episodes Masks and Firstborn. Yeah, he's not really a recurring character, but I didn't expect to see him again after this episode. And I saw him, like, hey, it's Eric, because he introduces himself specifically as Eric. When the other ambassador dude sees him and doesn't understand what a child is, and is like, what is this? And he's like, what is your name? Eric. Eric, do you like dessert, Eric? So yeah, I mean, that was kind of a funny scene. But, the storyline wasn't all that great. I mean, there was a few laughs in it, but overall, it's just, I don't know, it was kind of silly, like the revelation that the dude was trying to antagonize Worf, I mean, it's obvious. But, I didn't know exactly why. I didn't know, like, he didn't understand what anger meant, and he tried to study it, but it was obvious that the one ambassador is all about eating, and the other one was just trying his best to, like, get under Worf's skin. Because that's why he specifically chose Worf. So I don't know, yeah. So there wasn't really much to that storyline. It was, as I said, it definitely didn't carry the episode, and it was just kind of fluff there to have something amusing to go back to. Now, as for the main storyline on the planet with Picard, yeah, this is not good, is the word I'm looking for. So they were trying, the idea of this episode was to do like a version of Misery, that Stephen King novel that was turned into a movie with Kathy Bates. And that, I was never really into that movie, to be honest. Wasn't really my thing. And the original pitch was to kind of, in a way, kind of mock the obsessive fan who's like really obsessed with Picard, and how would they react if they met him in real life, and could this be like a version of Misery? But the thing is that if they actually did a version of Misery, I might have liked it better. Like, because in Misery, yeah, it was about someone who was an obsessed fan who took it too far and was becoming possessive and definitely had mental issues and was putting that guy's life in peril, which is not what's happening here. First of all, she was never an obsessed fan. She's just someone who was on the planet trapped there by herself for years. And they present it as if it was a woman trapped on the planet for years, and she gets, goes a really loopy and crazy from the loneliness of being trapped there for so long, and that's what made her sort of out of touch socially. But we find out that's actually not the case. It's just some alien guy who doesn't understand emotions and doesn't understand love, trying to force it, like based off of this, these logs that they read. And so that's really not interesting. Like the ending revelation of it's just that ambassador dude trying to figure out what love is. I guess he was listening to the Foreigners. I want to know what love. Anyway, it's like it loses all interest. It's like, so what's really the point of it? Now, I do think that the actress who plays Anna did a really good job. And it had that sort of whiny quality, but maybe it was too whiny at times. So like she was constantly saying, "Oh no, don't get up!" No, like every scene, it was like her telling him not to get up, and she gets back into the ship, and he's like, "What are you doing up?" And like you're just repeating that over and over again, and the way she goes, "Love me," is something I would always make fun of through the years, and no, it's just annoying. It's not interesting. Now, if they actually did make it kind of a misery type thing where she was like a big fan of Picard or something, or even maybe you could leave out the fan part, and she was just like loopy from being on the planet, and was like started becoming possessive and obsessed, and it's like, "You will never leave me." I mean, I don't know. I still don't think that storyline would be that good, but I can see a way. If they made it a bit more like Misery, I could see a way of it being more interesting than it was. As it is, it's just annoying. It's not really interesting at all, and the revelation just makes it dumb. Now it does make me wonder about these aliens, because I like the concept of these aliens being so alien, so different than Starfleet or humans or any of the normal species we met, that they don't understand things like emotions and love, because that's not how their species operates. But the problem is like any other science fiction that did that would be an interesting concept. But Star Trek, we're just so used to seeing all the other aliens act just like humans. Just be like, humans with shit on their foreheads. And all of them, they all have emotions and all these different things. So we're so used to seeing aliens. I mean, if they portrayed them like as not humanoid, like if they were like these weird like Tholians or these weird blob type things, then maybe I could see that. But as is, it's hard for me to sort of buy that these people don't really have that they don't have emotions, they don't have pleasure, they don't have anger. I've heard someone else reviewing this episode ask, like, what the hell is their planet like then? Will they just sit around being like, "I am fine, are you okay? Yes, I am okay." And I guess the point is that they're aliens, and so it could be possible that their world is just completely alien to what we would imagine. But again, this is Star Trek, and we meet these humanoid aliens that just are so human-like all the time. It's just, I don't know. It's a bit harder to buy, and it just seems weird and out of place for Star Trek to be doing something like that. And on top of that, the way that Picard just lets him off the hook, he does mention, it's like, what you just did, many would consider a crime. And he's like, "Crime? What is this?" You don't even know what a crime is? Like, what the hell do these aliens do? But anyway, And then he's like, yeah, no, don't worry about it. Forget it. Here you go. Oh, it was good meeting you. Your approach was very interesting. The way that you tried to force yourself on me and, sexually assault me. That was a fascinating way to go about this first contact. Now, I get it. They're so alien they don't have the context of, or even the concept of what they were doing was wrong. But still, it's just really uncomfortable to watch. Now, if they made it more like a misery thing, I don't know. I don't know if that would have made it better. Maybe if they chilled out on the... I don't know. I don't think it would be better, actually. The more I'm thinking about it, just the whole plot of her being, like, obsessive and possessive and stuff is just... I don't know. It's just not interesting to me. I really don't have a hell of a lot to say about this episode. That's why I had to talk about season 7 for a lot to begin with. Because, these aliens, that's basically the point of the episode. These weird aliens don't understand human behavior, and they try to understand it by, what the dudes who was trying to experience pleasure. Like, there's different forms of pleasure than just eating. And I know where your mind is going, but there's different forms of pleasure than just that, too. There's other, like, you go on, like, skiing trip or, all these, there's plenty of other things that you can do for pleasure, but all he wants to do is eat dessert. And, the other thing is that Troy went straight for she's like, oh, I'm not really having these foods. I'm waiting for the dessert. I'm like, doesn't she eat dinner? Well, she just skips her dinner and goes straight to dessert. I understand maybe eating a little less to save room, but she wasn't even putting anything on her plate. Like, that dude, though, was, like, shoving his plate full of all sorts of food. Like, doesn't he ever get full? I don't know. Yeah, and it seems like there would be a better way to experience love than that. But I suppose if they came across this log entry and they didn't really understand it, I don't know. I also find it hard to believe that a dude crashed on a planet that another woman happened to be crashed on already. Like, does this planet, like, have a pool that, like, pulls ships into it? The space is vast. It seems kind of a coincidence that two lone survivors, one happened to be a male, one happened to be a female, just happened to crash on that planet. Now, one thing I will say about this Picard thing with the ambassador that I did like about the episode is that Picard didn't even mention the fact that it was the man that kissed him. He didn't pull like an Ace Ventura and try to like clean out his tongue. It was like, I was kissed by a man. He was more concerned of I don't really care what your sex is. That was fucked up to do, and that is correct. Of course, he did forgive it too easily, but I do like that they didn't even mention that. Like, that wasn't even mentioned. So that was good. That was good early Star Trek. But, yeah. Other than that, there's really not much to say about this. I'm just, like, struggling to try to find things to say about this episode, but I think that's all I got. So, now I would like to thank very much Patreon supporters for supporting me on Patreon. It's very much appreciated. It does help me continue with my channel, and I'd like to give a big special thanks to Brandon Ilhouse and Antarius. Thank you so much for your strong support. Very much appreciated. I'd also like to give a shout out to Benjamin Mead, Greg Marley, Francisco, Chuck Hooks, Kyrie091, Anthony D. Benedictus, Ricky, Matty Jester, Joe Lavals, Alessandro Miguelisio, Norman Buchwald, Stephen Kennedy, Brenton Berg, and Allison Fordyce. Thank you all so very, very much for your support. So we do have a few Patreon comments on this episode. They're all short. I guess they didn't have much to say about the episode either. So first comment is from Norman Buchwald, who says 2 love me's out of 10. This episode has a disappointing revelation, and this visiting species seems to rival with the Wadi with annoying the diplomats of Starfleet's greeting them. Enough so, maybe Starfleet needs to revise first contact protocols when the species is acting like total pricks with them. Yes, I doubled that. Although they're saying that this isn't first contact, that they already were aware of this species. It seems like first contact to me. I don't know. Anyway, next comment is from Stephen Kennedy. It says, I like the scenes with Deanna Troi and Ambassador Laquelle. Worf has a fight date with Ambassador Byleth. The Picard element to this story was kind of boring. Watch the episode Gravity instead for a better love story, even if it goes only a one-way love. Fun fact, Marina Sirtis doesn't even like chocolate. So my rating is 5. How much chocolate can one person eat? And if the Enterprise was attacked by the Jem'Hadar, he could continue to eat out of 10. Yeah, Gravity is a far superior episode, and that's also a shuttle crash. I was going to mention that they do the shuttle crash cliche, which I hate in this episode. And they don't... Gravity at least justifies the shuttle crash cliche and actually does something into like a good character story. This is not a good character story. It doesn't justify the shuttle crash cliche. And that is a fun fact that Marina Sirtis doesn't even like chocolate. I did not know that. Anyway, next comment is from Antarius, who says, this is season 7, but the planet with its lightning effects looks like season 1 and reminded me strongly of the episode The Last Outpost. The scenes on the planet resemble Spock's story in All Our Yesterdays. I feel like I have seen the basic idea of this episode. Alien race wants to learn about humanity by experimenting with them very often. The scenes with Worf seem somewhat funny. My rating is a 4 out of 10. I thought the exact same thing about the lightning effects. And like the rocks, they use the same rock set. So yeah, that planet did remind me a lot of the planet from The Last Outpost. However, the storyline with Picard didn't remind me of Spock's storyline from All Our Yesterdays at all. Because Spock actually had a thing for that woman, and that woman wasn't like creepy obsessive like this woman is. So no, I didn't get that vibe personally, but that was just me. Anyway, next comment is from Ricky, who says, I love Season 7 of TNG, particularly the second half of the season, but like Season 6, it has a rocky start, and this episode is certainly among them. For one, the episode is very boring, the plot is boring, and these liaisons were rude, they were not likable, and they irritated me. Also, I find the Picard scenes very boring, especially when it comes out that the liaison was pretending to be that woman. To me, that was a dumb twist, so yeah, I really don't like it, so my rating is a 3 out of 10. I agree, that was a dumb twist, and I didn't really like the Picard stuff, but I think I got more enjoyment out of the other ambassadors on the ship. But yeah, there wasn't much to it. Anyway, so next comment is from Brandon Neil Howells, who says, oh dear, first off, this isn't a first contact episode, so how do the Federation crew know so little about these jumpsuit wearing aliens? If you want to similar and better take on being tested by aliens, may I suggest Observer Effect. Worf is comedy gold, but the 3 stories get boring very quickly. Picard being asked to love Anna makes me feel particularly uncomfortable. Fun fact, the actor playing Laquelle is allergic to chocolate. All these fun facts about the actors not liking chocolate. How about this? And the Lorarians are born fully formed after hatching from a pod, so they have no idea what children are. 3 procrastinating Klingons out of 10. Yeah, because Worf was procrastinating at the start of the episode. Yeah, that part wasn't funny, especially the whole thing about these look like dresses, and Riker's like, I'm surprised at you. And, you know, that, yeah, so yeah, the side plot, I agree. I mean, there were some funny things about it, but it wasn't, I don't think it justified it. It certainly didn't hold the episode up. So anyway, my rating for Liaisons out of 10, it's going to be a 4 poor. You know, after I first watched it, I was thinking I'm going to give it a 5 or 6, but after talking through it, I'm starting to realize, like, there's not much about this episode that I like. I guess the most praise I can give it, that it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Like, it was, I thought it would be absolutely terrible. And it wasn't absolutely terrible. It was somewhat enjoyable, particularly the Worf stuff was funny. But, yeah, the Picard stuff did drag on, seem repetitive. It was somewhat interesting, I guess. I mean, the concept of a woman being trapped alone on the planet and for 70 years and how that would affect her, except for the fact it's all taken away when you find out it's just that dude pretending to be her. So it undermines everything that was interesting about that storyline. So yes, I am going to give this a 4 out of 10. So anyway, that is it for my review of Liaisons. So if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to leave a like. Comment below. Did you find this episode as boring as I did? Did you find Worf saying he's going to rip out his esophagus as funny as I did? What did you think? You can comment below. And if you would really like to support the channel, you can click the link below in the description for my Patreon page and support me on Patreon. There's different tiers for different budgets. There's different rewards, such as I do a patron-only series of videos where I revisit reviews I've already did, and I also do pre-releases 2 weeks in advance, and you can request a video for me to do stuff like that. So yeah, check me out on Patreon if you would really like to support the channel. Otherwise, a like, subscribe, all that stuff also really helps as well. So, let's see what's coming up next on my channel. Monday, I'll be over on Patreon doing one of those aforementioned patron-only videos. I'll be revisiting my review for the Circle trilogy. That is the Homecoming, the Circle, and the Siege. First 3 episodes of DS9. Covered them in one video because it was a 3-parter, and I'll be revisiting that video over on Patreon on Monday. On Wednesday, I'll be back here on my main channel for another public review, this time reviewing the TNG episode Interface. Thursday, I'll be Lower Decks time. Star Trek Lower Decks, not the episode, I haven't gotten there yet, but the show is coming back, season 5, episodes 1 and 2 coming out together, so I'll review them together this Thursday. And then Saturday, speaking of 2-parters, be reviewing Gambit parts 1 and 2. So that's what's coming up on my channel. Be sure to check it out as I continue to cover Star Trek Next Generation and Star Trek Deep Space Nine and many other shows as well. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.